And with this, we are live again. Yeah. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And we are back on Wednesday with another live stream. And if for those of you who've been following, you know that we live stream on every Wednesday and build something, using the Python SDK. Today we are going to do something similar, which means that today's topic is also related to Alexa as always, but today we won't be doing development as per se, but we'll have a look at something else, which is in my opinion, an equally important aspect of Alexa skill development. So let's just wait for a few minutes and then we'll start with today's stream. It's gonna be a lengthy one, so I'll try and talk less and get more into the topic because I have a lot to cover in this stream. And also for those of you who are interested in the poly part, the poly is going to be a sub part of the major topic today, which is SSML. So I just read some comments a few days ago on Sohini's stream that somebody wanted help with using poly with Python. So here I am with that solution as well. So I hope that would be helpful for you, for you developers out there. So let's just, if you are there in the chat and you're watching this stream, just let me know if everything is good, if my voice is clear, you're able to see the screen, and if everything is good, and just give me a thumbs up in the chat, and also drop a hi in the chat if you're there. So that would actually let me know who all are here, and maybe we can have a small chat in between somewhere. But yeah, chat messages, they keep me engaged. So here's the first one from Shubham, as always. Hey Shubham, how are you doing? I am actually in Delhi. So the weather here was cold for past few months, and just in the past week it has now started to get better and get a little warm day by day. Just let me know which areas are you guys from, and what's the weather out there right now. Shubham says audio and video both are good. Thank you for the confirmation, Shubham. Let's now start with the topic if everything is good to go. So yes, the topic for today is, as you can see from the title, is using SSML and Poly. So let's just set the base first, and let's, before even starting talking about them in detail, let's just first understand what these things are. So SSML is nothing but, oh shit, just a moment guys, I closed my browser by mistake. So let me just reopen that. Give me a second. Okay, I think I just did something really stupid. I just set my, the hotkey to change my background is same as, it's actually I set it to Control W, which I forgot that if I am on a browser, that actually, closes the browser. So yeah, that's something stupid, but I think that can happen down the stream. So I'll actually avoid doing that. So no change of slides. So yeah, let's not waste any more time and get straight into the topic. As you can see, the background has changed, and the question that we are asking is, what is SSML? So the full form of SSML is speech synthesis markup language, and as the name suggests, it has something to do with building artificial speech per se, and it's a markup language for building artificial speech, you can say that. So what exactly SSML does is, when you have the way you have responses in an Alexa skill, till now what we've been seeing in our streams is that we've been using plain responses. So those responses don't really have many modulating factors to them, and it's simply just plain text. But today what we'll be seeing is how we can add some markup to that, and using specific tags called as SSML tags, we can we can change how things are being spoken by Alexa. And similarly, we'll see into a lot of aspects, like it's not just about what Alexa speaks or how Alexa speaks. It's we'll get into a deeper level of things of if we can attach emotions to them, whether we can change the voices, whether we can like basically we'll explore what all things we can do with SSML. But before we get started, if you are watching this at any time, you're watching this live or you're watching it at a later stage, please do like the stream, or also like the video. So it really helps me to to know that you guys are liking the content that we are making, and it motivates us to do better for the future. So yeah, please do like this video. Really means a lot to us. So let's get into the documentation. So as I told you before, I won't be covering much of the code part today, because SSML is not exactly just the coding, because there is not really much logic that goes into it. It is just a syntax through which you wrap the text responses that you have, and those text responses, once we wrap them, they are spoken in a particular way, which we will see in just some time. So let me change my screen to the browser where the documentation is there, and we can then start. Okay, just let me know. Okay, I think I'll have to change the source of the browser. I'll just okay, a little weird, it's not showing me the browser I want to capture. It's actually showing me a different browser. Just wait with me for a moment while I change it. Quite strange actually, but what can we do? Okay, new tab opened up. Let me see now if I am able to change the screen to my browser. Okay, for some reason it isn't changing. I don't know why, but I'll just quickly change the source again. So I'm trying to do a browser capture. I'll add a new browser source. Okay, I think this has now become a ritual. No matter how hard I plan, how good I plan things, something or the other goes really wrong in the starting of the stream itself. But okay, window capture, yeah, that is what I'm looking for. I'll capture the window. I'll name it browser. I'll just add the source, and I think I can find my source finally. Yes, and with that my screen should be visible. I think my video is now gone, so let me just change that. Okay, now I think everything should be good, and you should be able to see my screen. And let me just zoom into the screen so that you're able to view it in proper dimensions. Okay, so guys, this is the documentation for SSML, and I'll just paste the link for this in the chat. It's also there in the description. So if you want to, just read it on your own, you can do this. I'm pasting the link in the chat. My OBS is showing me some issues. It shows that the video is not smooth and is buffering. Just let me know if there is any issue. But I just read Shubham's message where he says everything is looking good, so I believe buffering is no major issue, and we'll start with this. So as you can see, here's the basic definition about SSML and what it really is. So you can see in a nutshell, it is just a markup language which is used to mark up the text in order to synthesize speech in a better way. We'll understand how it's done. So this is the very first step for those of you who use AWS Lambda to develop the skills, and for those who don't use the Python SDK, or you are generating the JSON response that is sent back to Alexa using the basic way, which is like passing on the JSON directly. So in your output speech, you must be having a code written something like this, wherein the output speech would have the type as SSML, and here, like, it would actually if it's just a basic skill, it would have the type as plain text, and the SSML instead of SSML, here it would be text, and here would be the whole text which is to be converted to speech from text. But when we are using SSML, you will need to make some modifications for that, and instead of plain text, here change it to SSML, and from text, change this name to SSML, and also add these speak tags before and after the string that you are trying to speak out. And this is necessary because SSML uses these speak tags. These are the opening and closing tags that you need to make sure that are there. And if you're using Python SDK that I mostly use in my videos, you are good to go. You don't need to do anything because the Python SDK by default, it uses SSML and it doesn't use plain text, and it wraps all our strings in with these tags, which are the speak tags. So you don't need to really worry about adding these tags or making any changes. If you're using the SDK, you're good to go, and you can proceed further from this step. Below here, there are just some examples which we won't be getting into directly there. We'll get into them one by one. So let's just also understand why SSML is important and what we are trying to do with SSML. Basically, Alexa's speech or its voice can be very robotic at times. You might feel that there is no real emotion in the voice, or it doesn't talk like a real human, because it would show you some basic signs, like it would take a small pause if there is a comma or if there is a full stop, and do some basic stuff. But the voice or the whole tone of the message, you'll find that the whole tone is just on a same scale, most of the times. Like, there is no excitement in it, or there is no dull point. Basically, the speech is not modulating, it's not changing in a way where it is more engaging for the user, or the user feels more connected to it, or they feel that they are talking to a real human being. But through a skill, we actually need to make that kind of an a relation with the customer. We need to develop our skill in a way that our customer feels that they are actually talking to someone, and it's not just a piece of a program. The way you do it is that you modify things in a way that they sound more realistic, because there's not much that you can do with the visuals to make it more what do you say, realistic, but you can make it sound in a manner where the user feels more connected to it. So how can you do that? You can do that by using SSML tags, and by using SSML tags you can add different kinds of modulations, like increasing the increasing the speed of the speech, or increasing the volume, decreasing the volume, adding emotions, changing the voice, and a lot more. So let's just take a look at the first tag that we have in front of us, and I'll also keep giving you examples here and there, anything which I find related, I'll just keep telling you about that. So the first tag that we are looking at is the Amazon domain tag, and in this tag there are 4 different kinds of possible values that this tag can have. And the first is conversational, the second is long form, the third is music, and the fourth is news, and the fifth one, actually there are 5 types, sorry. So the fifth one is fun. We can't really use it much, the fifth one, that is why I keep forgetting about it, because it's only available for the Japan region, which means it only supports Japanese as of now. But let's just have a look at each one of them, starting from conversational. So conversational, the type conversational is nothing but it if you use a voice tag, you can use different characters or different speeches to make the whole paragraph or the sentence sound in a manner that 2 different people are talking. So if you are narrating a story or something like that, and if you want that there are 2 different people talking in that script, and you want to show it that there is a male and there is a female, and those two people are talking. So how will you depict that? You will depict that using the conversational tag, and I'll show you how you can use these tags and how they exactly sound like, so you'll get a more realistic idea of it. But just understand that as the name suggests, conversational is just a tag to specify that there is a conversation going on in the text part, right? So similar to this, if you say, for example, you have a very long paragraph, and that is an article or that is a story, and you want to read that out. So you would like to read that out in a way which is which is suitable for reading an article or a podcast format or stuff like that. So for that you will use this tag called long form, and what this tag will basically do is that it will take the whole text, and it understands that the text is some kind of a long form content, so it reads it in a very specific way, which is very soothing for the user, and the user actually can distinguish that part of the speech from the other messages that usually Alexa gives. So the way Alexa would speak when you use the long form content will be a bit different, and will be more suited, or will be more podcast like, or the way an article is being read. Similarly, there is a tag called music, and it is specifically used when in the speech you are talking about music, video, or other multimedia content. So for example, if you have a whole whole paragraph in which the latest album of Rihanna, or any other singer for that matter, is being talked about, you're talking about the Billboard, or any other such news. So what it does is that what you need to understand here is that Amazon has put in a lot of years in synthesizing these speeches and understanding the user's needs. So through its machine learning and AI models, it now understands that when people talk about music, they talk in a particular way. So say for example, if they mention the title of the track, then their pitch increases, they're very excited about it. Or when they mention about something else like the rank of the video or something, then there can be certain changes in their speech. There can be certain ways they people say those things. So its AI model automatically understands all of those things, and you don't need to care much about adding different tags. You just need to add a single tag, which is the music tag, and it will convert the entire paragraph which you feed to it. It will read it in a form that it's reading a article related to music. Like, it will have that sense, and you'll be able to figure that out by listening to that particular speech. Similarly, the fourth tag that we have in the Amazon.domain part is the news tag. And this news tag is used when you are trying to read out news articles, or a flash briefing, for example. Because what happens is, if you have noticed that news is something that when an anchor they say a headline, they don't have to specifically attach any sort of emotion to it. The reason for that is, a journalist or a news anchor, they need to be unbiased. So they don't really need to show any kind of emotion. So if you remember, like in India, we used to have, or we still have, the All India Radio, right? So if you have listened to All India Radio, or news on FM for that matter, you would have noticed that the tone in which the narrator would keep speaking the different headlines, it would be in a single tone. Whether they are saying that yesterday a bus fell into a pit or something, and say 15 people died, or whether it would say India won the last test match, there would be no feeling of joy or remorse in their speech. And that is the same aspect that goes into the speech synthesis when you use the news tag. The emotion is completely ignored, and you just get a plain voice without any emotions. Currently it says that this news tag can only be used with 3 voices if you're using custom voices. But you never know, these things keep on changing, and in the future they might also be available for different other regions. Like the 4 tags above, there is this fun tag. I haven't had a chance to play around with this tag, since it only supports the Japanese language. But I believe, as the definition mentions, that it is used for to sound more friendly and animated in greetings, animations, or children's stories. So it's basically if you want to add more fun to a paragraph, or a specific set of lines that you want to speak out, then you use the fun tag. So let's now have a look at what does a piece of a paragraph, or a line look like with the tags. So this is how it looks. As I told you before, each message has to be confined with the speak tags at the beginning and the end. Apart from the speak tags, you need to use any tag that specific tag that you're using. In this case, we are using the Amazon domain tag, and the attribute that we are using is the name attribute. So we have specified that the tag is Amazon:domain, and the name is news, right? So when you would take that and try to speak this out, Alexa would speak it out in a way that it's reading out news. Let me go ahead and show you how this is spoken out. So for that, we'll simply open the Alexa developer console. And you can open up any skill that you have previously developed. It doesn't really matter, because we won't be using the code part or any other part. We will simply be going to the test part of any skill that you have. currently on your developer console, and just enable the development part of it. And over here you will see three different options. We always use the first one, which is the Alexa simulator, but today we'll be going into the third section, which is the voice and tone section. And I'll increase the size, so I hope you are able to see what's on screen. So this particular section is if you want to, if you are someone who is working with the design of the skill or the VUI part of the skill, and you are trying out different combinations of speech. So what you don't want is you don't want to make changes to the skill and every time run the skill and try to listen to the output. Instead, what you can do is just come to this particular section and write down anything here. Like I would just write down, this is a plain text message, right? So this is a simple plain text message. This is just wrapped in the speak tags, and I'll just hit the play button.
This is a plain text message.
So I hope you were able to hear the response that came from Alexa. It simply said this is a plain text message, and it just read it in a pretty straightforward manner. Nothing special here. Just you wouldn't even notice a difference by using speak tags or without using speak tags. That is because we haven't done anything yet, right? So this is how we'll be testing out different pieces of text with the markup applied on them. So let's just copy the first one, which is the news example, and we'll paste it right here, and we'll try to play this to understand how this speaks it, right? Yeah, let's just go ahead.
Latest news: the conversational and news styles are now available for the Matthew or Joanna voices.
So you heard how it spoke this in a manner where how news would be spoken. I would now just replay it again without the Amazon domain tag.
Latest news: the conversational and news styles are now available for the Matthew or Joanna voices.
So I don't know if you noticed the difference, but there was a slight difference between the two styles. In the second one, like in the plain text style, it pauses after the latest news for this colon, and then it goes ahead and in a way where it tone modulates slightly based upon the words that it's speaking. But in the news narration style, you will see that is different.
Latest news: the conversational and news styles are now available for the Matthew or Joanna voices.
So it's more pacey. There's no real emotion to it. It doesn't really dip in or go up. It doesn't really show those kind of things. And yeah, this is how a piece of news would be read out, right? The next that we have is the music tag. So let's just demonstrate the music tag as well.
Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses became one of their most successful singles, topping the Billboard Hot 100 in 1988. Slash's guitar solo on this song was ranked the 37th greatest solo of all time. Here's Sweet Child of Mine.
So you heard with such enthusiasm, it spoke out all the titles and the rankings and even the names of the artists. And this is because of all the knowledge that this particular tag gives the piece of text. It just doesn't understand what's written here. It understands certain parts of this speech. I'm really sorry, I just got a Skype call in between. But yeah, it really does understand certain parts of this text really well, like the name of the artist, like the ranking, then the name of the song and all of those things, and speaks it in a different way. To understand the difference, let me just change it from music to news, and let's see if it were a piece of news, how would Alexa read it out.
Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses became one of their most successful singles, topping the Billboard Hot 100 in 1988. Slash's guitar solo on this song was ranked the 37th greatest solo of all time. Here's Sweet Child of Mine.
So do you notice that this was more flat as before, this was in a very pacey manner, didn't really have any emotion, didn't really show any emphasis for, any specific names or titles, all of those things. So yeah, that's how you take advantage of all the machine learning and all the speech synthesis that, Amazon has, gained over these years. Similarly, long form content, to give you an example, it is like, if you were like showcasing, like you want to showcase the new iPhone, if you were, trying to replace Tim Cook with, a digital narrator right there. So this is the form that, this is the tag that you would use for that particular speech. And the reason for that is that it's very suitable for presentation like content. This long form is very suitable for that as well. So let's just see how it, listen how this is being read out.
Meet Echo Dot. Our most popular Echo is now even better. With a new speaker and design, Echo Dot is a voice-controlled smart speaker with Alexa, perfect for any room. Just ask for music, news, information, and more. You can also call almost anyone and control compatible smart home devices with your voice.
So did you notice it's, again, it's different from what we've heard before. So we had a look at the news and the music tags, and long form is different in a way that it sounds more like someone is telling you about a product, or, someone is narrating something. So it has that particular, the feel to it. So now let's just move on. I'll skip all of this part because most of it will be covered in the later section, and I'll skip to the next part, which is the Amazon effect. And what this is, simply this is an effect which you can add to a piece of speech, and what it does is it only supports one value for now, which is the whispered tag. And what it does is that whatever the piece of text that you supply to this, it will whisper it, right? If you're talking to Alexa, building Alexa skills, or just using skills in general, that Alexa has a feature that when you whisper anything to Alexa, it recognizes that you're whispering to it, and there must be a reason for that. So it whispers back in to you with the answer. That happens because it has this feature, so that if you don't want to disturb people around you, you can talk to Alexa in a whispered tone. But what if you wanted to use that same functionality in a skill with any reason, like if you were building a skill which which has a storyline, and in that storyline maybe you're saying that, and and then the man whispered in in the priest's ear or something like that, and he said, and you really want to give it that effect, then you use this tag. And let me just show you how this tag sounds in effect.
I want to tell you a secret. I am not a real human. Can you believe it?
So this comes really useful in like all of this. Like I would like to take a minute here and emphasize on this, that all of this knowledge that that we gain through using SSML, and actually in the entire use of SSML is really good when you are when you're putting in a lot of time in the design of the skill. And by the design of the skill, I mean that you are not just focusing on the coding part of it, but you're also focusing on the design part of it. And by the design part, I mean that you design a whole persona for the skill. This is something which is not not discussed much, but you will find very articles by a lot of people, and also several live streams wherein people have covered this topic, where they talk about building a whole persona for a skill. And by persona, I mean that your skill is just like any other human being. Like if I as a human being have certain qualities, if I speak things in a certain way, or if I use certain words most of the time, then that becomes a very important aspect of my behavior, or of my style of speaking. So similarly, you can assign those kind of styles to an Alexa skill, and you can make a skill more engaging by using such effects for voice. So I've just showed you how you can use the whisper effect, and once we've gone through that, we come to the for me the most exciting aspect of this. This is a tag which is not universally available, and it is not also it's not available in the English India region as well. But still, like if you are building skills for the US audience, it can come in really handy, because what it offers is unlike what we've anything that we've seen before. Machine voice is not you can't really show emotion through that voice most of the time. But what this tag enables you to do is, this tag enables you to add emotions to your tone. And how do you do that? You do that by using these two values, which are the excited and the disappointed values. Similarly, you want to specify the intensity of the emotion. So say you are excited and you are highly excited, so you would use excited with high, which would show the maximum amount of enthusiasm. Similarly, if you are disappointed, you would like to sound, you won't be disappointed and your intensity won't be high. Like it can be in certain cases, but mostly it would be like if you're disappointed, your intensity would be a bit low, right? So by using such combinations, you can actually give your voice a lot more flavor. So let's just see how this particular line would sound.
Christina wins this round.
So if you're building gaming skills, this comes really handy. The reason I'm saying this is because if you have played any games on Alexa, so you would notice that there's not much visual content available right now, right? So all the enthusiasm that a user can relate to is via voice. So when the user wins or when the user loses, they want more empathy from Alexa or from the machine, right? How will Alexa show that empathy? The only way to show empathy is by modulating the voice's tone. And in this case, if the user wins and you give a message with the excited tag, and it says hooray, you won, so that would really match with the user's what do you say, user's feeling right now. So the user is winning, the user is happy, and Alexa also gives a very excited and happy response. The user likes the conversation that they're having. It feels like as if I just did something really good, and my friend is having a chat with me, and my friend is also equally excited that I have achieved something, or there is something that I am happy about. So it's that kind of a feeling that Alexa would give, and that's why it becomes really important. And this is very useful for particularly for gaming skills. But I'm waiting for it to actually come to India as well, for for some Indian language, because right now the skills that I've built, they don't really use English US or UPA languages much. A few of them do use, but most of them don't, so I can't really use it right now. Apart from this, the next important tag that we have is the audio tag. And like all the things that we've discussed before, you can say that they have their own pros and cons, and like right now they can have limitations and all of that stuff. All the tags that we go from here on, these are mostly the generic tags that have been existing for quite a long time now, and I'll quickly take you through them and tell you about their uses. And these are the tags that you will actually use most of the time, right? So the first one is the audio tag. As the name of the tag suggests, this tag enables you to play audio files in your response. So there are two ways to play audio files in an Alexa skill. One is by using the music player technique, in which, if you build a podcast skill or a music skill, music streaming skill, you would use an mp3 file which is very long, which can be, say if it's a podcast, it can be an hour long. If it's a song, it can be say about 10 minutes or so. But for those kind of soundtracks, you would go for a music player. But if you have small sound effects, like for example, if you're building a gaming skill, and if the user answered correctly, you would like to give them a audio response which is like, which confirms that they gave a right answer, right? It will be a cheering sound or a clapping sound, it can be anything of that sort. But you would like to have some sort of sound effects to make the conversation more engaging. So how would you use those sound effects in a response? You would use the audio tag to do the same. And the way the audio tag is designed is that you simply define the name of the tag, which is audio, and the attribute you use is src, and inside of that you just pass on a URL for your mp3 file. All you need to make sure is that the URL is it supports HTTPS, which means that it is a secure URL. And by secure URL, I mean that it should have a valid SSL certificate. You can basically you can use any mp3 file, but the size of the file should be less than 240 seconds. Like basically the timeline of the file should be less than 240 seconds, which is same as the limit for the spoken text which can be given in a response. So if like Alexa's response at any given point of time cannot be longer than 240 seconds, which is roughly around 4 minutes. So it can only, Alexa can only go on speaking for about 4 minutes continuously, and then it would wait for a reply from the user. Ideally, it is designed in such a way that it can't speak for longer than 4 minutes. So you need to make sure of that. And apart from this, the speech part is 240 seconds and the reprompt part is only 90 seconds. Apart from this, the bitrate must be 48 kbps and the sample rate must be one of these three. So this is really important, and if you don't pay much attention to this, then you can face errors in the future, because initially when I started building skills, I faced a lot of errors, and then I realized what the problem was and I resolved it. So the easiest way to resolve this is by using a method which is given right here. So it is a way to convert your mp3 file into a format which is supported by Alexa. So you can either install and use something, a library called as ffmpeg, and what this does is that once you've installed and got everything ready on your system, you just need to open the terminal or the command line and just simply need to copy and paste this command. Replace the input file with the mp3 file that you are trying to convert, and replace the output file with the name of the output file, like give it any name. And once you run this command, it would give you a output file with the in the converting the existing file into the required format. This is to create a file with 16,000, the bitrate. What's that? It's the bitrate or whatever it is, like hertz. I don't know what exactly this was, but you can either use 16,000, which is a lower quality, or you can increase it's the sample rate. Okay, So you can increase the sample rate to 24,000, which is the best quality. So you can do that by changing the value here. And once you do that, you will get the output file which is compatible with Alexa. If you don't wish to do it through the command line, you can download the Audacity software, which is a free software, and you can use it to convert the existing audio file into the required format. And this doesn't require any specific coding knowledge or whatever. You can just import the file into this software and convert it and use the output file for your needs. So once you have converted the file, you need to upload that file to a server. That can be any file hosting server which supports which has a valid SSL certificate. If you don't have a domain of your own, you can host it on S3, and you can use those files from simply from fetch them from S3. You can do that as well, right? If you are, yeah, I think with that we are done with audio files. There is something related to the live stream files, but let's not go into that. We are done with the audio tag, and now we come to the break tag. If you add a comma or a full stop, then it adds a small pause to to the speech, right? When you just read out a line, it would add a small pause after the line if you use the full stop. But what if you want to add a larger pause, like you would say, now I would wait for 5 seconds and get back to you after 5 seconds. How do you do that? In that case, you would use the break command or the break tag, and using the break tag, you can use the break tag with two different kinds of attributes. The first attribute is the strength attribute, which determines how strong you want the pause to be. So I don't really understand this approach much, because I don't really I'm not able to figure out when to use the weak, medium or strong values. Instead, what I do is I use the time attribute, and using the time attribute, you can specify the time in either seconds or milliseconds and simply add a pause. So just to give you an example, I'll copy this code and run it.
There is a 3-second pause here. Then the speech continues.
So as you just saw, it read this line, took a pause for 3 seconds and continued its reading the rest of the line. So this is how a break command works. You can also give it I usually use it in seconds, and if I were to give it half a second thing, you can even use values like 0.5 seconds. That works as well. So once you are we are done with the break tag, let's now move on to the emphasis tag. The emphasis tag is for the parts of speech where, if you are say for example, if you are reading a paragraph and if there is a specific line which you want to emphasize on, then you can use this use the emphasis tag, and you can emphasize on any particular word or any particular line in a paragraph, right? So I won't give you an example of this. I hope you understand how this particular thing works. Let's come to the language tag. Now this tag is actually very interesting, because what it lets you do is that if you are reading out a piece of text, for example, like as they've given here, if you're reading out this text and you say in Paris, they pronounce it as Paris. And why did I say Paris instead of Paris? Because I think that's how they pronounce it in France, right? I would just play this.
In Paris, they pronounce it Paris.
Right? So if you want to pronounce something in a way that it is similar to the native pronunciation, so you would use the language lang tags in that case. And here you can specify the pair, the language pair, which not the pair exactly, the language in which you want to speak that word out in. And here it is specified as French. So this particular word is spoken out in French in one particular manner. Right, so the rest of the part was in English, but as we just use a tag for this specific word, only this part is spoken in French in that particular manner. Right, so similarly, there is another example given here that if there were no language tag used, so how would it pronounce this? Let's listen to it.
J'adore chanter.
It read it as J'adore chanter. It pronounced the R as well, right? ER as well in the end. But now listen to this.
J'adore chanter.
Chante. So I don't know how I'm pronouncing it, but yeah, you heard the computer how it's pronouncing these two things separately. So yes, if you are building something, like if you're building a skill which is to make people learn new languages, so you can use this to speak words in the particular native language that is being spoken out. These are all the locales that are currently supported for the language tag, and as you can see, Hindi is also one of the languages which is supported. Coming on to the next tag, it is the paragraph tag, another very simple straightforward tag. Nothing, it's just the P tag, which specifies that this is a particular paragraph, and once this paragraph ends, it would give a small pause after the end of the paragraph and before starting the next paragraph. So it's as simple as this. Phoneme, if I'm pronouncing it correct, is a very interesting tag, and what this tag lets you do is that let's say there is a particular word and it's pronounced in a way that Alexa is not doing correctly right now. Okay, and like the example they have given is pecan. You can also take the example of potato. So some people call it potato, some people call it potato. Similarly for tomato, there is always a difference in which how people pronounce these names of different things. So if you were to teach Alexa to pronounce a word in one specific way, how would you do that? The ideal way of doing that is by using phonemes, and by using phonemes, what you specify is you specify the phonetic pronunciation of that particular word, and using that phonetic representation, Alexa understands that how is it supposed to speak that out, and it would speak it out. There are two possible values for this attribute. The attribute's name is alphabet, and the possible values are IPA and XSAMPA, which are two different types of phonetic representations of words. You can use any one of them. It supports both, and this particular attribute ph is used to this is just the type of, you can say, the attribute that you would be using. You're just specifying whether you are using IPA or XSAMPA, and inside this attribute you would be actually specifying the pronunciation in one of these formats. So let's just see an example of this, because this is really interesting, right?
You say pecan. I say pecan.
So as you just heard, it said pecan and pecan. It pronounced the same word as two different words based on the phonetic pronunciation that was given here, and it uses this to convert this into a particular format and then speaks it out. So similarly for specifically for if you're using a language in a region which it is not native to, like in India, there are certain English words that we pronounce in a different way, right? So the English, if I use English India as the language, then it can pronounce those words in that certain Indian way. But if I am building a skill where I want the pronunciation of that particular word to be the way it should be, then I can use the phonemes to modify that. And yeah, this I find this really interesting because with this you can really improve the speech of Alexa by a huge margin. So these are some different examples of, like, how this word bottle, this is an IPA representation of this word, and this is an example representation of this word. So similarly, you can search for these representations on the internet, and even if you go for services like Google Translate or stuff like that, if you just search for any word on Google, it would give you I think it's IPA representation below, the phonetic representation below that word, which you can use for speaking out. Uh, okay, let's move on to the next tag, which is prosody. And prosody is another interesting tag, because what it lets you do is that, for example, if there is a particular paragraph of text and you want to read it out really quickly, it can be like it can be a paragraph wherein you're telling rules to the user. Or my favorite example for this one is the mutual funds advertisement that comes up on TV. At the end of the advertisement, there is a line which says mutual funds are you know are risky or something. Please read all documents carefully before investing. But they read it out really fast, like, please read all documents carefully before investing. So like that, you can't really listen to what the user person is speaking, but that's their motive behind it. And the rate of speech is really fast. So how do you do that in an Alexa skill? You can do that by changing the prosody of the speech text by using the rate attribute. And if you use the rate attribute, again, there are two methods of specifying the rate. One is by specifying these names, which is X slow, medium, fast, stuff like that. The method that I mostly use is the percentage method, and it simply means that with the rate attribute, if you specify 100%, then it would mean that it has to speak out the whole text in the same in the there would be no change in the rate of speech. But if you specify it to be higher than 100%, then it would increase the rate of speech and it would speak it faster. And if you want to slow that down, then just give values lesser than 100. Remember that the lowest value that you can specify is 20%, and the highest I feel would be somewhere around 200%. Or I haven't really tested out the highest value, but if you go like 150 or 160, you would understand what's the difference between the different rates of speeches. So rate of speech was one part of the prosody. The other part is the pitch. Similar to the rate, if you want to increase the pitch, like if you want to if you're building a conversation in a way that you want to show high pitch in any form, so you can use the same percentage system here, or use these values to increase or decrease the pitch of the sound. The same goes for volume. If at a particular point of time in speech you want to increase the volume, to give more emphasis on that, and then decrease the volume, you can use all of that using these tags. I'll simply run a small example which demonstrates all of these aspects of prosody.
Normal volume for the first sentence. Louder volume for the second sentence. When I wake up, I speak quite slowly. I can speak with my normal pitch, but also with a much higher pitch, and also with a lower pitch.
So, playing with the pitch, it really came in handy when I was building a skill which was similar to the talking tom skill, right? So the talking tom skill, if you have used that skill or that app before, so you would know that in that app, whatever you speak out, the cat speaks it back to you again in in the cat's tone. So to achieve that kind of a thing on Alexa, what we did was we selected a specific voice. The name of the voice was Ivy, and we altered the pitch of that voice in a way that it sounds similar to a cat's voice. And guess what? We were able to, come quite close to it, and we were able to create a voice which was, very cat-like, and we used it in one of our skills, and it did really well. So yeah, altering the pitch can come in really handy, but it depends upon, the entire prosody thing. It really depends upon the use case, and sometimes you want to speed up things, sometimes you want to slow down things, and as you wish, you can make all of those changes. Okay, now let's come to the next tag. I know I'm going really fast, but you can go through this entire documentation. I'm just giving you an overview to make you understand, how things are. And if you have any questions, you can just leave them in the comment section below, and I'll just be happy to answer them at a later stage. But already an hour has passed, so I'll just quickly try and wrap them up in the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So another simple tag after prosody, which is the sentence tag. Just like the paragraph tag, if you simply just specify anything between the S tag, it is treated as a sentence, and there is a short pause which is added before the start of the next sentence. So this is how it is. The say as tag is the most important tag, I would say, in this whole SSML, in the whole of SSML. And this is because it lets you do a lot of things the way you would like them to be. So to give an example, if you are building a skill which teaches them, which teaches spellings to children, so you would like to build a mechanism where if you have a word, you can spell out that entire word to someone, to the user who's listening. So for example, if I want to spell out Alexa, I would go about Alexa. But how would I do that if I want to do that through the speech response? I have to add dots after each letter, or do such sort of things. But I don't have to do all of that if I am using the interpret as attribute. And with this attribute, if I am using the spell out value, anything that I specify with this tag will be spelled out and will not be read as a particular word, right? Instead, it would be spelled out. Okay. Similar to this, if I want to do the same thing with numbers, and if I want to speak out numbers as cardinal numbers or ordinal numbers, like for example number 1, number 2, number 5, or I want to speak them out as 22nd of March, 30th of May, like that, I can use the option accordingly. I can use either the cardinal number or the ordinal number, and I can do that. If I want to speak out each digit of a number specifically, like if there is a phone number and not a phone number, if there is like a price for something and the price is 532, and I want to speak that out in a way that it's an OTP, for example, and if I want to speak out your OTP is 4129, so using this digits tag, I can use that. If I want to speak out a fraction, I can use the fraction tag. If I were to speak out a unit of measurement, I can use the unit tag. The date tag to speak out dates, time tag to speak out time, the telephone tag to speak out different phone numbers. It supports 7-digit and 10-digit phone numbers. Similar to these is the address tag. And till here, it's very simple to understand, and you can follow that based upon the tag that you use. It would speak out that particular set of word in that particular way. Then comes interjection. Interjection is a specific type of attribute where if you use interjection you can use speech cons, and speech cons are small sets of words which add more emotion to the whole speech. Like for example, if you're really happy and you want to say hooray, so there is a speech con which is available in the Amazon library, and using this tag you can use those speech cons to make your skill more exciting. The last tag in this list is the expletive tag. So if there are any, let's say if there are any curse words in your speech, right? And you want to bleep them out, or if there is any particular set of words that you don't want the user to listen to, so you can bleep them out and using the expletive tag, and the user would hear a beep sound instead of in the actual word when it's being spoken out. I saw someone using it really creatively when it was a fill in the blank skill, and instead of the blank they use the expletive tag. So while they were speaking the whole sentence, you knew exactly where the blank was, right? They didn't need to specify it, so it would read the whole line, and wherever the blank was it would just play a beep sound. So with this, no, really, you don't really need to import a MP3 file or do anything of that sort. Next is this is the format tag, and you can use the format tag whenever you're using the date, just to specify the date of the format of the date. So if you're not using the date, you can just ignore it. Speech cons, here is a whole list of speech cons for different regions. If you go there, like in Hindi, if you go there, you'll see a speech con like balle balle. It's really specific to the region that you're viewing. So go out there and have a look at those speech cons. The next tag is the speak tag, which we've already talked about because this is the base. And we are only left with the last three, and we are coming to the voice tag, which is the most important tag of all of these. But before we come to that, we'll discuss about the sub tag. The sub tag is really simple. If there is a particular word which is read a different way, usually, like for example for chemical elements, we write it as the chemical name is Al, which is the short form, or the name which is used to represent aluminium, but the full name is aluminium, right? So when you're writing this sentence or showing it, displaying it on the screen, you want to display Al, but what you want to speak out is aluminium. So how do you do that? You do that by specifying the sub tag, and inside that, as an alias, you use aluminium, and you use it, you mark up the word Al with this particular tag. And what happens is, when Alexa would speak this line out, it would speak it as, my favorite chemical element is aluminium, but Al prefers magnesium. So I'll just simply, or I'll not run this code. I hope you get an idea of how exactly this is functioning. It would read out whatever you give in the alias part and just display this on the screen instead. Now let's come to the most important tag out of all of these. Imagine if you are building a skill, and if you want to give that skill a particular persona. By a persona, I mean that if you are, that I built a skill some time back, and that skill was related to, that was a game for cricket. What was happening in that skill was, it was a quiz skill, and anytime you answered a question, it talked to you. The entire experience of the skill was such that a commentator is narrating everything. So it's not Alexa talking to you, but rather it's a commentator saying, okay, you scored 4 runs. They were not points, they were runs, and it would say you scored 4 runs, you scored 6 runs, stuff like that. If you gave a correct answer, it would say, okay, you hit a boundary. So I wanted a specific kind of an essence for that voice. If I use the default voice of Alexa, it would not give that that feeling to those lines. So instead, what I did was I used the voice called Matthew, which is available with Amazon Polly, and that voice was actually a British voice, which was very similar to a commentator's voice that you would normally listen to on TV. So using that, I was able to generate an experience which was which the users could relate to, and that was something which was really appreciated in the skill as well. So similarly, if you are building any sort of skill in which you think it requires a certain kind of flavor to it, and it needs a different voice, and you shouldn't be using the default voice, then just go for the voice tag. For the list of the voice tag actually uses voices from Poly, but the best part is that you don't need to import anything special here. All you need to do is just use the voice tag like any other tag, and inside the voice tag you just specify the name of the voice that you're using, and once you specify the name, it would speak that line out in that particular voice. Also, as they've shown here, you can also use the language tag with this. So for example, if you are using Matthew's voice to speak out something, and in between you want to speak out something in French, you can use the language tag combined with this tag, which would speak that particular word or line in French or any other language, and do the required task for you. So let's just run this code, or I'll simply run it right here.
I want to tell you a secret.
I am not a real human.
Can you believe it?
So as you saw, this particular line here, it was read differently, and that is because you specified the voice tag here and specified the name of that voice. So this is really fun. Every time I build a skill, I actually do have a look at it, because I want each of my skill to have a different persona and to have an identity of its own. Usually what happens is, when you are building skills and you use the default voice for its interaction, sometimes it's not possible for new users to distinguish between whether it's a skill or it's just Alexa speaking in general. So it's a good practice if you use a different voice for your skill, which distinguishes from the default voice. Then the user is you have their attention, basically, because something has changed, and they start paying more attention to what is being spoken out. And they've just given an example of how you can use different voices in the same response. So if you just specify 3 different voice tags, so it would read these lines in different manners. Like it would read it in a way in the English US format, then British English format, and so on. So let's just listen to this before we end here.
Here's a surprise you did not expect.
I want to tell you a secret.
Your secret is safe with me.
I am not a real human.
Can you believe it?
So as you saw, I'm saying as you saw, but as you heard that there were different voices that you could certainly distinguish between, and this is the sole purpose of using the voice tag. You can also change different voices in Poly, make MP3 files out of them, and do all of that stuff, but you don't really need to if you are using the voice tag. This would be all for this stream, I guess. There's one last tag remaining, which is the W tag, but okay, let's just take a minute, and I'll simply take you through this tag as well. This has one attribute called the role attribute, and inside the role attribute, if you can specify a particular verb, or you can say the tense of the verb in this particular case. Actually, you can specify whether it's a verb, which specifies that it's in a present simple form. If you use this VBD, it specifies that it's in a past participle form, that particular word or line. And you can also specify whether it was a noun or not. And the way this functions is that if, for example, like they've given a very good example here, where read and read, it's pronounced as two different, like it's the same word but pronounced in two different ways, right? So by using these tags, you can make such distinguishing, add such distinguishing factors to your skill. The last tag in this is the Amazon Sense one, and what this does is, suppose there are two different pronunciations for a word. So if you don't specify this tag, what Alexa would speak out is the default pronunciation that is saved with Alexa. But if you use this tag, then Alexa goes for the other pronunciation, which is not publicly known or widely used, and is not the default selection of Alexa, but it would use the other kind of pronunciation that is generally used for that particular word. So yes, with this we have come to the end of the stream, and I feel we just give me a second. Yeah, I know it's been 15-20 minutes over what my stream generally, of the length my stream generally is, but what can we do? This was a long session, and I wanted to cover up all the things in one particular session itself. So I didn't really read your chats as well, but I hope you guys were able to follow this, and you enjoyed this session. You were able to learn about SSML and how do you actually use them. Their actual use would be in skills, and when I will be building skills later on, when I will be building skills later on, I will be using some of this part, and that is why I wanted to cover all of this at once. I know, Shubham, yeah, today's stream was too much talking, but I actually thought before that I should divide it into two parts, but then I thought I'll give it give it some time, make this a long stream so that everything is covered, and in the future I can refer people to this stream when I am mentioning about different attributes that we'll be using in our skill development. But yeah, I didn't do anything special in this one. I just took you through the overview of the SSML document, but I believe in this 1 hour set you were able to understand how things work in the with using SSML, and next time you build skills you would be able to use them. If with this we come to the end of the stream. If you have watched the video till here, then don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, then just subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon if you want regular notifications from us. We stream every Wednesday and Friday. Friday is the Node.js stream by Sohini, and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. IST I stream I do this session where I build skills using Python, and occasionally I do things like we did today, which requires no specific coding knowledge at all and can be watched by both Python and Node.js users. I hope this session was informative, and with that I'll be signing off. I'll see you guys in the next stream. Just let me know how you like the stream in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Goodbye.